He didn't know where he was or how he got there. All he remembered was fire, a crash, screams echoing through metal corridors, and then silence, floating in a sea of black stars with half a breath left in his chest. The first face he saw after regaining consciousness wasn't human. It was tall, wiry, skin like stretched obsidian, with luminous green eyes that shimmered like wet moss. The creature didn't speak at first. It watched, studied, fed him liquids he couldn't name, tended to his wounds with hands that trembled as though they feared him. The planet was called Kavala. He found that out months later. A primitive place by Earth's standards. No electricity, no machines, just natural stone dwellings, plant-based medicine, and a language that sounded like wind through reeds. The Kavalans had never met a human before him. To them, he was a living artifact from the stars. A broken one at that. His name was Grayson. No titles, no rank, just Grayson. A pilot, barely. A scout ship blown out of orbit by a freak ion storm, flung light years off course. He was supposed to be dead. Instead, he'd become a ghost in someone else's world. They didn't ask for anything in return. Not food, not knowledge, not even technology. They simply helped him, fed him, healed him, and for that, he owed them his life. But even back then, buried under bruises and broken ribs, he knew the truth, knew it deep in his bones. Kindness doesn't go unpunished. Grayson stayed on Kavala for 3 years. He learned their ways, spoke their language, slept beneath their trees and helped build their huts. He was their strange, hairless cousin from the stars, and for a time, it felt real, like peace could live here. But peace is a lie people tell themselves to sleep at night. The day the Terran retrieval unit finally located him, everything changed. They didn't land softly. They came in loud, metallic gunships cracking the sky open like thunder, full armor, black visors, rifles pointed at shadows. They didn't ask questions. They didn't greet the Kavalans. They surrounded Grayson like he was a lost nuke they finally found. The Kavalans stood frozen, confused. Children cried. The elder who had nursed Grayson back to health stepped forward, unarmed. He was met with a stun round to the chest. Grayson screamed. But protocol was protocol. The squad didn't care what the aliens had done. All they saw was a human asset exposed to xeno-influence, contaminated, at risk. They dragged him back to the ship, strapping him down like cargo. The last thing he saw as the hatch closed was the village burning. Fires lit by Terran hands. The retrieval team called it sanitization. Grayson never forgave them. Not the team. Not Earth. Not Command. Years passed. He was reinstated, promoted, decorated. They called him a survivor, a war hero, a man who endured capture behind alien lines. He never corrected them, but deep inside, something darker brewed. A need. A promise he whispered to himself on sleepless nights. They had burned the only peaceful place he ever knew. Now he would return. Not alone, not weak, but at the head of humanity's most feared fleet. Grayson didn't sleep much after Kavala. He didn't sleep during the psychological evaluations, the endless interviews, or the ceremonial medal ceremonies he never wanted. They gave him ribbons, assigned him to Earth Command's Tactical Research Wing, and poured his name into propaganda stories sold to civilians like bedtime myths. He played the game, on the surface, said the right things, nodded when they called the Kavalans a Class C xenospecies, not worth re-establishing contact with. Let the analysts draw their conclusions, and the politicians milk his tragedy. But inside? Inside, he remembered every name, every face, every quiet smile they gave him without expecting one back. He remembered the elder's body convulsing after the stun shot, the flames twisting through wooden roofs, the children coughing as black smoke swallowed the sky, all from humans in black armor pretending to be saviors. They weren't saviors. They were liars wrapped in steel and protocol. He watched Earth turn colder, meaner, more militarized. The fleet kept expanding, and peace was no longer something they sought. It was something they enforced, with plasma and fear. Humanity wasn't building bridges. It was digging graves between stars. By the time Grayson earned his own ship, a Leviathan-class dreadnought, they called him the youngest fleet commander in Earth's naval history. They didn't know what they gave him. They thought they were rewarding loyalty. What they did was hand vengeance the keys to an arsenal. The ISS Widowmaker was a monster. A kilometer of firepower, cloaked in obsidian plating, powered by a dark matter core that could burn a moon to vapor. It bristled with kinetic cannons, railguns, ion disruptors. The crew? Hand-picked, loyal, conditioned. He didn't need loyalty. He needed silence. He fed them lies, spoke of recon missions near the Shatter Zone, border patrols near wild space. The brass bought it. Why wouldn't they? He was the golden child, the ghost made flesh, the man who survived the aliens and came back better. They never asked what happened on Kavala. They just assumed it was a hostile zone. The retrieval team's incident report said the natives resisted. Minimal casualties, sanitized, controlled. Grayson knew the truth. He was there. He still smelled their smoke. The day came when Earth Command handed him full authority to lead a diplomatic fleet deeper into unclaimed space. Seek out potential colonies, they said. Identify threats before they identify us. He nodded. Inside, he laughed, because he had already programmed the coordinates, buried in the flight plans, deep in the jump matrix, beneath all the red tape and encryption. Kavala. They thought it was just another dead world in the archives. They never knew it had survived. They never knew it had remembered. Kavala hadn't changed much, or so it seemed from orbit. The lush green canopy still stretched wide across the valleys. The mountain ridges still carved jagged lines across the continent. The river that once flowed through the village still shimmered like molten silver under the morning sun. But Grayson noticed the difference. There were no fires this time, no chaos, just silence. The village where he once slept under trees and shared meals with creatures who didn't understand war. It was gone. Not destroyed, not wiped out, abandoned, like they had vanished. The scanners on Widowmaker showed signs of life, deep underground, scattered. Different frequencies, unfamiliar readings. They had evolved. He didn't tell his crew the real mission. He told them it was a recon scan. Check for traces of previous Terran tech, he lied. Might be something worth retrieving. Nobody questioned him. They landed. He walked alone. No armor, no helmet, just boots crunching over dead leaves and memories. The clearing where the village stood was overgrown now, reclaimed by nature. But he remembered every corner. The rock where children played. The tree that shaded the elder's hut. The path that led to the healing pools. Gone. Only echoes now. He stood there for a long time, eyes closed, listening. Then he spoke, quietly, in their tongue. I've come back. Nothing answered. Not birds, not wind. Then a hum, low, ancient, mechanical. Something deep beneath the soil began to move. He took a step back as the earth groaned. The trees trembled. The ground cracked open along lines too perfect to be natural. And then it rose. A structure. No, a machine. Cylindrical. Organic in design. Glowing with veins of pale green light. It pulsed like a heartbeat. A voice echoed, not in the air, but in his mind. You returned. And you brought the sword. He didn't flinch. You left me with nothing, he said aloud. So I became what they feared. You became them. No, he replied, voice hard. I became worse. The machine opened. Light spilled out, and from within came 3 figures, not Kavalan, not any more, taller, armor made of living bark and stone, eyes like crystal fire, weapons not built but grown, and they didn't kneel, they didn't run, they stood before him, unafraid. "You should not have come back," one said. The voice was feminine, cold. "I came to warn you," Grayson said. "Warn us of what?" He stepped forward, tone like iron. "Humanity's coming." The 3 looked at one another, then back at him. "We've been waiting." He exhaled. So it wasn't over. Not for them. Not for him. They remembered the fire too, and they had not been idle. Grayson didn't blink. The creatures standing before him, what used to be the Kavalans, were something else now. Something that no Earth dossier or fleet intelligence could explain. Their forms pulsed with life not bound to flesh. Their armor didn't shine. It breathed. Weapons weren't held. They grew from their arms, shaped by thought, will, memory, and yet he recognized their eyes, especially hers, the one who'd spoken. "You were a child," he said, stunned more by memory than sight. "Your name was Luna. You tried to braid my hair once and got frustrated I had none." Her expression didn't change. "And you used to laugh. Now you bring warships." "I brought a warning," he replied, stepping closer. "Humanity believes this world is dead, but when they learn it's alive, they'll come again, not to retrieve, to conquer." Luna looked down at the soil under her feet, then back to him. "They already did." Grayson's jaw tightened. She wasn't wrong. "Then let me help," he said. "You did," she answered. "You brought the fire, then vanished." "I didn't choose that," he growled. "They dragged me out like a stolen relic. They destroyed your homes and fed me lies. I've waited years to come back. I've built everything for this moment." "Why?" she asked, voice like dry wind. "Why return? For guilt, justice, or revenge?" He looked past her, to the forest, to the shadows of a life that once felt more real than Earth ever did. "I owe this place my soul," he said, and they took it in flames. A long silence followed. No birds sang, no engines rumbled, only the quiet hum of the structure pulsing beneath them. Finally, Luna nodded to the other 2. They stepped aside. "Then you need to see what we've become," she said. Grayson followed. They led him deep underground, through winding roots and stone tunnels that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. The walls weren't carved. They were grown, formed by vines and resin that shaped the path as they walked. "What is this?" he asked. "The vault," Luna said. "We built it after the fire." "You weren't supposed to be able to build at all," Grayson muttered. "Fleet Command wrote you off as pre-industrial." "They were right," she said. "Until you came." That stopped him. "What do you mean?" She turned, eyes hard. "We studied you. Your ship, your tools. We studied your fire. And we learned. You were the seed that sprouted this." She gestured to the walls. "Your pain, your stories, even your language, it shaped our evolution. You didn't just survive here. You infected us." Grayson felt something heavy settle in his chest. "So, this is my fault." "No," Luna said softly. "This is your legacy." They stepped into a vast chamber lit by veins of green and blue light. In the center, a tree stood, massive, ancient, its roots stretching into the earth like veins into flesh. Hanging from it were fragments of metal, pieces of his original crash site. He recognized parts of his suit, his insignia, even his old helmet, cracked but preserved. "The heart of Kavala," Luna said. "It absorbed everything. Your tech, your memories, your emotions." He walked closer, heart pounding. "It's alive." "Yes, and it remembers, just like we do." He turned to face her. "Then you understand what's coming." She nodded. Humanity doesn't understand silence. They interpret it as weakness. But we are no longer silent. Grayson looked at the tree. And you're no longer weak. Hours later, aboard the Widowmaker, his crew was growing restless. "Commander," Lieutenant Corrin said, her tone clipped. "We've received a message from Earth. High Command wants a status report." "Tell them we're still scanning," Grayson replied, staring out the viewport. "No anomalies, no threats." She hesitated. "Sir, we're on a ghost planet with weird energy readings and no visible population. That is an anomaly." "Then I'll deal with it personally." She didn't like that. None of them did. They'd trained for war, not mystery, but Grayson wasn't interested in their comfort. He knew what was coming. He called a private channel and sent a transmission. Coded, dark, buried in layers of outdated protocols. It wasn't for command. It wasn't for anyone in the Terran hierarchy. It was for a man named Callan Voss, not one of those polished fleet officers with perfect records. Callan was a ghost, like Grayson used to be, a rogue strategist. Burned bridges on Mars, killed 3 of his own men on Europa for insubordination, then vanished into the outer sectors with a stolen cruiser. Grayson knew where to find him, because he needed monsters to fight monsters. The message was short. "You wanted chaos. I'm giving you the match. Meet me at 0.17 Kelros. 1 week. Kavala lives." He ended the transmission. War wasn't coming. It had already begun. Below the surface, the Kavalans were no longer just a species. They were a force of nature. The heart of Kavala had unlocked something in them, not just technology, but memory. A psychic echo left by Grayson's pain, his survival, his fury. They built weapons from living matter, designed not to kill, at first, but to repel. Defense, protection, until Earth returned. Then they began to plan. Luna walked Grayson through their armory. He saw war beasts grown from seed pods, with bone-like armor and plasma sacs in their throats. Saw archers with bows grown from living wood that fired energy pulses. Saw scouts cloaked in leaf skin that bent light. It wasn't science fiction. It was evolution gone mad. "Are you planning to strike first?" Grayson asked. Luna shook her head. "We're not like your kind. We don't burn what we fear." "But you will fight," her expression darkened. "We won't kneel twice." Grayson stood there, between 2 worlds, one he hated, one he owed. And he realized something. This wasn't about helping them anymore. This was about choosing sides. 3 days later, the Terran Council declared a new initiative, Project Redeemer. They had intercepted fragments of Grayson's coded transmission, misread it, assumed it was a distress call, believed the planet Kavala held untapped resources and a rogue human asset under alien influence. They assembled a fleet, not for peace, for reclamation. 20 warships, 4 dreadnoughts, 1 command vessel carrying a terraforming spike capable of wiping entire biomes within hours. The countdown had begun, and Grayson was now out of time. The sky cracked open. First came the tremble, then the light, then the long scream of metal cutting through atmosphere. Humanity had arrived. Grayson stood on a ridge above the valley, wind biting at his face. Below, Kavala's forest glowed with 1,000 hidden signals. Creatures of living bark and bioarmor slithered through the trees. Airships woven from roots and bone hovered beneath the canopy, hidden from orbital scans. It was a perfect silence before chaos. Above him, the Terran fleet dropped into low orbit like executioners. 20 warships, painted in obsidian and gunmetal gray, their thrusters red-hot with entry burn. 4 dreadnoughts followed, engines screaming, and behind them all, ISS Hammerfall, a command vessel the size of a city, with its terraform spike glowing beneath the hull like a loaded gun. The signal had come in hours ago. Full invasion protocol. Codename Red Harvest. No diplomacy. No retrieval. Total cleanse. The council had decided. Kavala was no longer a mystery. It was a threat. And threats didn't get questioned. They got erased. Grayson had no more illusions left. No fantasies about Earth's capacity for peace. This was it. He turned to Luna. She stood next to him, arms folded, her skin laced with glowing veins of green light. Behind her, dozens of warriors waited, silent, focused, their bodies humming with life and fury. "They came," she said, flatly. He nodded. "And they won't stop." Her eyes narrowed. "Will you?" He didn't answer immediately. The air was thick with smoke trails, sensor pings, and death. "I've already chosen," he finally said. "I burned my own ship's launch codes. I sent the coordinates to someone even Earth fears." Her head tilted. "Who?" "Callan Voss." That name landed like a stone. Luna had read the Terran archives, back when they hacked the wreckage of his old escape pod. She knew who Voss was, knew what he represented. "He's mad," she said. "So am I." They stared at each other for a moment longer. Two people from opposite ends of the same wound. Then the alarms began. Fleet signals locked onto the surface. Terraform protocol initiated. Grayson clenched his fists. "They're powering the spike. They'll wipe the valley first." Luna didn't flinch. "Then we strike first." He turned toward the horizon, where the first dropships began falling like burning hail. "Let them come." The first Terran unit to land was Bravo 9, a mechanized recon squad equipped with scout drones, exoframes, and rapid deployment turrets. They hit the ground hard, establishing a perimeter in minutes. What they didn't realize was that they'd landed in a grave trap. The forest seemed still at first, too still. The air unnaturally silent. Then the trees moved. Not from wind, from rage. Roots erupted from the soil, thick as cables, coiling around legs and torsos. One soldier screamed as he was yanked into the canopy, vanishing in an instant. Another tried to fire, but his rifle jammed, sabotaged by sap already gumming up the barrel. Then the sky cracked again. Not from Earth, but Kavala. Luna's airships, grown from the ribs of beasts long dead, rose in silence. They hovered, then fired. Not missiles, not lasers, spore bombs, biological charges that burst mid-air, unleashing a neurotoxin that didn't kill instantly, but confused, disoriented, and broke coordination. Within minutes, Bravo 9 was down. No survivors. On board the ISS Hammerfall, Admiral Grant watched the screen flicker with red alerts. "Unit Bravo is non-responsive," he frowned. "Send Alpha 4 in, and tell the fleet to prep the spike. We end this before it festers." Grayson watched it all from a stolen signal feed. He knew Grant, had once admired him. Now he looked at the man like a virus. "This is what they do," he said, more to himself than anyone. "They call resistance an infection." Luna was at his side, expression unreadable. "We've never fought a full human fleet." Grayson looked at her. "You've never fought me." He activated the beacon embedded in his wrist. It sent a silent pulse, one known only to Callan Voss. A world away, chaos answered. The stolen cruiser Helljaw tore out of slipspace like a rabid dog off a leash. Voss didn't wait for protocol or permission. He never did. The man was lean, scarred, his face a roadmap of every dirty war Earth tried to bury. He looked at the command bridge of the Hammerfall like it was a target long overdue. "You always send the big ones," he muttered. "Easy to hit." Then he fired. The Helljaw's modified core lit up like a sun. Its plasma cannons unleashed a barrage that slammed into Hammerfall's shield, ripping through the lower decks like a hot blade through bone. Alarms screamed. Grant shouted for counterfire. But Voss didn't play fair. He brought 2 more ships, stolen vessels from Earth's own graveyards, crewed by mercs, traitors, and ghosts. They came in low, fast, unpredictable, hitting hard, then disappearing. Hammerfall shook. Dreadnoughts scrambled to adjust, and Kavala struck from below. Grayson led the charge. He wore armor grown from the heart itself, living plates that moved like muscle, a helmet that linked with his thoughts. In one hand, he carried a Terran plasma rifle. In the other, a blade forged from Kavalan crystal. He was no longer Terran. He was no longer theirs. He was something in between. And he didn't hesitate. They struck the second wave of landers mid-deployment. Dropships split open before their cargo could even touch ground. Kavalan archers rained down energy bolts from tree lines. Grayson moved through the chaos like fire in a dry field. He remembered every face he saw, and he showed no mercy. On the 3rd day, the skies changed. Earth's fleet had numbers. Kavala had memory, and now it had vengeance. They took out 2 dreadnoughts using living projectiles launched from the core, bioplasma pods that stuck to hulls, dug in, and exploded inward, like wasps nesting in steel. Voss's raiders disabled the terraform spike using EMP blasts and corrosive nanodust. And Grayson? He stormed the command deck of the Hammerfall himself, with Luna, with warriors at his back. He stood face to face with Admiral Grent, blood on his armor, smoke in his hair. "You taught me to survive," Grayson said, "but you never taught me what to do after." Grent raised his weapon. Too slow. Grayson fired first. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. And the silence that followed was the loudest sound he ever heard. Smoke twisted through the ruins of the Hammerfall's command deck like a living thing, curling over broken glass and shattered screens. Blood pooled around fallen officers. The great warship, the pride of Earth's Terran Council, groaned like a wounded animal, systems failing, the once pristine walls scorched and cracked. Grayson stood still, his weapon lowered, his face unreadable. Admiral Grent lay sprawled against the console, half his chest gone, vaporized by Grayson's shot. One arm twitched reflexively, fingers closing and opening on nothing. It wasn't the first time Grayson had killed a superior. But this was different. This was personal. Luna stepped forward slowly, her crystalline eyes scanning the wreckage. She didn't speak, didn't need to. Her warriors moved behind her, quiet and efficient. They weren't here to gloat. They were here to survive. "Is it over?" she asked. Grayson shook his head. "The fleet's in chaos. Voss is pulling his raiders out. Earth will retreat, for now." "For now," she repeated, bitterly. Grayson looked out the shattered viewport. Pieces of dreadnoughts floated across the atmosphere like metal corpses. Kavala's sky was no longer blue. It was bruised, scorched from the fight. "We bought time," he said. "Time for what?" she asked. Grayson didn't answer right away. His thoughts were too loud, too broken. He didn't want to say it, but she already knew. Earth would come back, maybe not next week, maybe not next year, but one day with a new fleet, smarter tactics, and no hesitation. "You'll never be left alone," he said quietly. "Not while they know this planet exists." "Then they will forget," Luna said, stepping to the console. "What are you doing?" he asked. She didn't look at him. "I'm burning the signal, cutting all transmission paths off-planet. Kavala will go dark. You'll be blind to the rest of the galaxy." "We were blind before, and we lived." He wanted to argue, but he couldn't, because she was right. He stepped away, watching her fingers move across alien tech grown from living bark. The system pulsed, dimmed, then died. Connection terminated. All Terran channels vanished. Kavala was invisible now, a ghost planet once again. They buried the dead in silence. Not just the Kavalans, but the humans, too. The soldiers who'd followed orders, the ones who didn't know what they were really burning. Grayson helped dig the trenches. He didn't speak, didn't explain. Some of the warriors still looked at him with unease. They remembered the stories, remembered that it was humans who came in fire and steel and left their world scarred. But they also saw him bleed beside them. That bought silence, if not trust. Luna watched him from a distance. She saw what no one else did, a man untethered from everything, even himself. Later, under the soft glow of the heart tree, she finally spoke. "You didn't have to stay." Grayson stared into the branches above. "I didn't have anywhere else." "You could have gone with Voss. He would have taken you." "I'm tired of running." She sat beside him. "Then what do you want now?" He laughed, a hollow, cracked sound. "I want Earth to choke on what they've become. I want them to look at this world and see a graveyard for their pride." Luna didn't reply immediately. Then she said, "That's not peace." "I didn't ask for peace," he snapped. "I asked for a chance." She looked at him, not with hate, but with something worse, pity. "You got your chance. You lived. We all did. That's what matters now." He stood, frustrated, pacing. "No, what matters is that they'll never stop. You think they'll just forget this planet? Forget that a fleet vanished? That their best admiral was killed by one of their own?" "Then let them remember," she said softly. "But they won't find us again." He turned sharply. "That's not enough." "It has to be." He stared at her, breathing hard. She met his gaze, calm. "You can't live in fire forever, Grayson." His shoulders sagged. All that rage, all that vengeance, and now, nothing left to burn. Weeks passed. Voss disappeared. No messages, no return. Earth sent out probes, then fell silent when none came back. Kavala rebuilt, slowly, carefully. The damage to the forest healed in time. The heart pulsed with quiet strength, its roots spreading deeper. And Grayson? He stayed. He lived among them, not as a soldier, not as a leader, but something in between. A warning, a relic, a symbol of what had been and what might return. Some days, he helped teach strategy to their scouts. Other days, he hunted alone in the deep forests, where the trees whispered memories only he could understand. But mostly, he walked, watched, waited. For what, he didn't know. Until one night, Luna found him near the riverbank, staring at the stars. "You look like you're waiting for ghosts," he smirked. "Maybe I am." She sat beside him. "Grayson, you don't have to carry it all." "Yes, I do," he whispered. "Because I brought it here." "No," she said. "You survived. That's not the same." He closed his eyes. "It feels the same." She touched his arm gently. "For us, survival is a beginning. For you, it's been a prison." He opened his eyes. "Then help me break it." She looked up at the sky. The stars shimmered, but none of them came closer. She nodded. And for the first time since the fires, he felt something stir in his chest, something soft, something like peace. The peace didn't last, not because Earth returned, but because silence gave birth to suspicion, and suspicion festered like rot in the heart of the survivors. Grayson felt it first in the way the stares lingered longer. The children no longer approached him with curiosity, but clung to their mothers when he passed. The warriors who once fought beside him now stopped speaking when he entered the room. He didn't blame them. He understood. He was human. No matter what he wore, no matter what wounds he shared, he looked like the ones who brought fire, and memory didn't heal as quickly as wounds. Luna tried to hold the lines together. She stood between him and the growing whispers, between his haunted loyalty and their growing fear. But even she could not silence everyone, and one of them decided to act. It was during the Rebirth Festival, a new tradition created after the war. A day where the villagers placed glowing stones into the river, each one bearing a name lost in the fire. The river carried their memory downstream, feeding the heart tree through its deep roots. 1,000 lights shimmered on the water that night. Grayson stayed near the edge of the gathering, quiet, watching. He never placed a stone. He didn't have a name to mourn. He carried them all. That was when it happened. A sudden crack in the stillness, a sound that didn't belong. Then a scream. Grayson turned just in time to see a warrior break from the tree line, weapon drawn, glowing with kinetic energy, aimed directly at him. The warrior moved fast, trained, controlled. But not enough. Grayson rolled aside, grabbed a shard of stone, and launched it, hard, fast, right into the attacker's knee. The warrior buckled, dropped. Grayson was on him in seconds, hand gripping the attacker's throat, blade drawn and pressing against his skin. "Why?" he growled. The warrior didn't flinch. Even with blood pouring from his mouth, he managed to spit one word. "Traitor." Guards pulled Grayson away before he could react. Luna arrived seconds later. "What the hell happened?" Grayson stood, fists shaking. "He tried to kill me." "I see that." She turned to the guards. "Get him to the chambers. I want him breathing." The guards dragged the attacker away. Luna turned back to Grayson. His voice was quiet. "This wasn't just him." She nodded, face grim. Number It wasn't. They interrogated the attacker that night. His name was Corvin, a young scout, fought in the Battle of the Shattered Ridge, lost his brother in the opening volley. He confessed everything. The resentment, the meetings, the growing belief that Grayson was a danger, not a hero. "He brought the war here," Corvin said. "He is the war." "He saved us," Luna said coldly. "He made us need saving." Grayson watched from behind the wall, unseen. Every word sank deeper into his chest. Corvin wasn't wrong. He had brought Earth here, and even if he hadn't chosen it, he had dragged their fire across Kavala's soil. That night, Grayson didn't return to his quarters. He walked through the old paths, past the healing springs, through the place where the heart's roots reached closest to the surface. He stopped at the tree, laid his hand against its bark, felt it breathe. "You should have let me die," he whispered. The bark warmed beneath his fingers, a pulse. He closed his eyes, and the memories came back, not his own. The heart showed him pieces of Corvin, his brother, the screams, the night he held a body too broken to fix, the smell of fire. Then it showed him himself. As the Kavalans saw him, a weapon wearing skin, a storm in human form. He pulled his hand back. The tree didn't judge, but it remembered. In the days that followed, things worsened. Whispers turned to silence. Luna stood firm, but cracks appeared. The council debated in secret chambers. Scouts began patrolling more often, not looking outward, but inward. One night, a symbol was drawn on Grayson's door. An old Kavalan rune. It meant unclean. He stood staring at it until Luna found him. "You should come inside." He didn't move. "They're turning," he said. She nodded. "Some, not all. But enough." She looked at the mark, then wiped it away with her sleeve. "I won't let them hurt you." "That's not the same as accepting me." "No," she said, "but it's still something." He turned to her. "You can't protect me forever." "I'm not trying to," she replied. "I'm asking you to protect yourself." "How?" She stepped closer. "Show them who you are, not what you used to be." The next day, Grayson gathered the village. He stood before them, not armored, not armed, just himself. He didn't speak like a leader. He spoke like a man who'd carried too much for too long. "I didn't choose to come here," he said, "but I chose to stay." Silence. "I fought for you because I saw what Earth tried to kill, and because I owed you my life." A few heads nodded. "But I won't lie, they were my people once, and part of me will always be theirs, just like part of me will always be yours." More silence. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for trust." He looked across the faces, some angry, some afraid, some hopeful. "I'm asking for a place to stand." The silence held. Then a child stepped forward, one of the few born after the fire. She placed a small, glowing stone at his feet. Her voice was small. "For your names too." And just like that, the silence broke. That night, for the first time in weeks, Grayson slept without waking from fire. The wind outside his quarters whispered through the trees, and no one marked his door. The stars were quiet again. For the first time in months, there were no alarms, no orbital scans, no Terran dreadnoughts breaking the sky, no meetings filled with suspicion. Kavala breathed. Grayson felt it in the way the trees swayed without tension, in how the younger warriors trained without watching over their shoulders, in how Luna slept deeper and longer, her brow less furrowed. But he didn't trust it. Peace, he had learned, wasn't the absence of war. It was the pause before the next wound. Still, he allowed himself the lie. For a little while, until the signal came. It arrived in the form of a simple pulse, one that only someone like him would recognize. Buried under 3 layers of decoy noise, buried so deeply that no one else on Kavala even noticed. But he did, because it was his code. A code he used before, once, long ago, when he was part of Earth's tactical recon. The encryption was decades old, deprecated, forgotten. But someone remembered. And someone wanted him to know they hadn't. He decoded it that night, alone in the forest, beneath the heart's canopy. The message was text only. "You made your point. Now it's our turn. They're coming. Tell your vines to get ready. V." Grayson stared at it for a long time. V, not Voss. Someone else. Someone still inside. Earth Command hadn't forgotten what he did. They hadn't written him off as a loss. They'd restructured, rebuilt, reassigned. And now they were coming again. Not to cleanse, to conquer. He went to Luna the next morning, showed her the signal. She read it twice. Then she looked at him, anger blooming in her chest like fire set to dry wood. "You said they wouldn't come again." "I said they'd need time." "And now?" He shook his head. "They won't use brute force this time. They'll send something smaller, smarter. A unit that can't be detected until it's too late." She stepped away, hands clenched. "They want the heart." He nodded. They always did. The first time, they didn't even know what it was. Now they do. They won't make the same mistake. Her voice dropped. "And you brought this back to us." "I didn't send the signal," he said, quieter. "But you taught them how to listen." That cut deeper than anything. He had no defense. Within days, scouts spotted strange patterns in the air currents. Drones, not like the ones from the war, but smaller, sleeker, faster. Burrowing through cloud cover, feeding information into a dark channel no one could trace. And then came the landers, not warships, stealth vessels, camouflaged, designed not to be seen until the work was already done. But Kavala had changed too. They weren't the same forest they were before. The trees were listening. The heart pulsed a warning days before the first drop. And this time, they were ready. Grayson moved through the shadows, armed but silent. His armor no longer bore Earth's colors, nor Kavala's. It was matte black, lined with bone and obsidian, stitched with living fiber that responded to his pulse. He hunted. They had dropped 12 men. Elite, human, augmented, Terran Ghost Recon, Unit Vulture 3. He knew their type. He used to train them. Now he tracked them like animals. They came in small groups, barely visible. No noise, minimal trace. But the forest didn't care about stealth. One misstep, and the vines remembered. The first kill was clean. A lone operative setting up a relay node. Grayson came from the trees, silent, brutal, fast. Crushed his windpipe before he could scream. Took his beacon. Fed false signals back into the Terran network. The second was more brutal. 2 soldiers breached a village perimeter, only to find themselves trapped in a dead-end canyon. What they didn't know was that the walls were alive. When the moss started moving, it was already too late. The heart wasn't just watching, it was learning, adapting, feeding. By the time the 7th operative died, Earth Command realized the mission was compromised. That's when the final signal came. And this time, it wasn't a warning. It was an ultimatum. From orbit, a new ship arrived. Sleeker than the Hammerfall, smaller but meaner. Built for tactical enforcement. It carried no colonists, no terraform spikes. Just one mission: extract the heart. By any means. Grayson intercepted the transmission while it pulsed through the Terran satellites. They weren't hiding it anymore. Earth didn't care about diplomacy. They cared about control. He and Luna met beneath the heart tree that night. "It's them," he said. "High Command. I saw the encryption signature. This isn't a recon team. It's a surgical removal." "Of the heart? Of you, of me, of this whole forest." She looked at him. "Then we don't give them the chance." He understood. This wasn't about defense anymore. It was preemption. It was survival. The Kovalans gathered like wolves. No ceremonies, no speeches. They had all tasted Earth's fury once. They knew this second wave would not leave ashes. They would leave silence. Grayson led the forward team. He wore no rank, only purpose. They slipped through the night like breath in cold air. Luna flanked him, armed with a bow that whispered its own language. The enemy drop site was marked by a faint heat bloom detected by the heart's deep sensors. Hidden in a ravine, shielded by cloaking tech, guarded by AI-controlled sentries. But the forest bent for its defenders. And it didn't forgive trespassers. The assault was sudden, furious, precise. Grayson drove his blade into the first soldier's spine before the sentry could even detect movement. Luna's arrows melted into skin, igniting on impact. Others followed. Claws, spears, poison-borne seeds that burst on contact. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like memory. Earth's team was elite, but they weren't ready. By dawn, there were no survivors. And the heart pulsed calmly again. Later, as they burned the wreckage, Luna turned to Grayson. "This isn't the end." "No," he said. "It's the beginning of something worse." She stared into the flames. "Then we teach them fear." He met her gaze. "They already fear us." "Not enough." Grayson didn't argue. He agreed. Kavala would not vanish again. This time they would be remembered. Earth finally listened. Not because they wanted to, because they had no choice. After the second failed operation, after 2 elite teams vanished and a state-of-the-art extraction vessel was found drifting in orbit, gutted and smeared with roots and blood, something in command shifted. Grayson knew the signs. He read it in the silence between broadcasts, in the sudden halt of probe launches, in the delay of orders. Earth wasn't regrouping. They were recalculating. They hadn't expected Kavala to evolve this fast, hadn't expected the planet to remember violence in such vivid, lethal detail. and they sure as hell hadn't expected him, the ghost they'd abandoned, to stand at the center of it all, leading the very creatures they once called primitives. Then the broadcast came. Director, encrypted, addressed to Grayson by name. He received it alone, under the heart tree. Luna had offered to stay, but he told her no. This was his war to finish. The voice that filled the channel belonged to Fleet Marshal Terran himself, the man who replaced Grent, the face of Earth's military arm. Polished, cold, with a voice like a scalpel. "You've made your statement, Commander Grayson. We received it clearly." Grayson sat quietly, listening. "I offer this once. Return to Earth. Face a closed tribunal. If found guilty, your sentence will be merciful. If found not, you will be reinstated. Your knowledge, your strategy, your experiences, these are still assets. Don't throw them away for tribal sentiment." Grayson leaned closer. "They're not tribal," he said. "They're more evolved than we ever were." Marshal Terran didn't miss a beat. "Then let them negotiate." Grayson smiled bitterly. "You don't negotiate with forests or ghosts. You just bury them." "Grayson," the Marshal said, quieter now, "there's a path to peace, but it begins with you." Grayson stared at the flame-like pulse of the heart tree above him. "No," he said. "It begins with you admitting what you've become." The line went dead. No threats, no demands, just silence. The kind Grayson understood far too well. They didn't send another fleet. They sent a beacon, dropped from orbit into the outer rim of Kavala's atmosphere. It planted itself into a cliff face and began to transmit, not words but images, diplomacy, a desperate olive branch wrapped in a cage, footage of Grayson, of the heart tree, of Luna, of the battles. Paused, labeled, catalogued, then an offer. "Open discussion, no weapons, one representative, one truth." Luna didn't trust it, neither did Grayson. But something inside him, tired, heavy, aching, leaned forward anyway. Maybe not for Earth, but for her, for the children born under the shade of the heart, for the ghosts who might finally be able to sleep. They met in a clearing, neutral ground, ancient Kavalan ruins where no blood had ever been spilled. Earth sent a diplomat, not a soldier, a woman named Ellen Baird, not young, not naive. Her face was lined, her eyes tired, her uniform simple. She came alone. Grayson met her with Luna at his side, flanked by two of her best sentinels. No words were spoken at first, just watching. Then Grayson stepped forward. "I expected armor." Baird shook her head. "Armor tells the other side you're here for war. I'm not." "Good," he said, "because Kavala doesn't care for speeches." She nodded. "I'm not here to make one. I'm here to listen." Luna studied her. "Then listen." And they began. For hours they sat beneath the rust-colored stones telling stories. Grayson didn't speak of tactics or battles. He spoke of a boy who fell from the stars into the arms of strangers, of a people who fed him before they feared him, of the night he was dragged back into orbit and watched fire consume everything that had given him peace. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He just remembered. Baird said nothing for a long time. Then finally she spoke. "We were wrong." Luna's eyes narrowed. "That's not enough." Baird nodded. "Number it's not, but it's where we start." She reached into her satchel and pulled out a single data crystal. "This holds the directive," she said, "signed by the Council. They've designated Kavala as a sovereign protected biome. No further incursions, no surveillance, no military presence." Grayson didn't move. He'd seen treaties before. They tore just as easily as paper. "What's the cost?" Luna asked. "Access," Baird replied. "To knowledge. Trade, cultural exchange, voluntary only." No heart, Grayson said. Baird met his eyes. We don't want the heart, he studied her. But you wanted me. I was the only one who didn't vote for your death. He believed her, but that didn't make him trust her. Luna stepped forward, took the crystal. Leave it, she said. Baird nodded. Then she turned to Grayson. You don't have to come back, but you should let them know why you stayed. Grayson didn't reply. Not then. That night, Luna sat beside him near the old riverbank. They watched the water run smooth over the stones. What now? She asked. He didn't answer at first, just closed his eyes and listened. For once there was no scream in his memory, no fire behind his lids, just wind. He turned to her. We keep living. She smiled faintly. That's not very dramatic. I'm tired of drama. They sat in silence. The war had ended not with a scream, but with a whisper, and in that whisper, Grayson found something he hadn't felt in years. Not peace, but purpose. Something worth standing for, and this time, no fleet would take it away. Years passed, and the galaxy forgot. Not all at once, not cleanly, but slowly, like mist pulled away by morning sun. Kavala became a myth, not because no one remembered it, but because no one wanted to admit it had won. The Terran Council, now fractured by its own contradictions and internal conflicts, buried the records under layers of bureaucracy. Official reports labeled the planet as non-viable for settlement due to indigenous hostility and biome instability. The truth lived in whispers, among veterans, among spies, among those who read between blacked-out lines. They spoke of a forest that moved, a tree that thought, and a human who betrayed his own species for something better. They didn't use Grayson's name anymore, not publicly. But on Kavala, it never stopped being spoken. Not as a warning, as a promise. Grayson aged slowly. The heart tree's influence, whatever it truly was, seemed to touch more than just memory and roots. His body healed faster. His thoughts moved clearer. He stopped dreaming of flames. Instead, he dreamed of stars. Wide, calm stars untouched by war. He took no title, held no rank. But when Luna passed leadership to a new generation, they asked him to remain near the heart as its first guardian. Not a commander, not a soldier, a watcher, a witness, he accepted. Not out of duty, but because for the first time in his life, the silence didn't scare him. The children called him the man from fire. They weren't afraid. They listened to his stories, asked questions about Earth, about machines, about the stars. He didn't lie to them. He told them Earth had beautiful oceans, skies made of metal, cities that touched the clouds. But he also told them about greed, about fear wrapped in flags, about what happens when men forget how to listen. One boy once asked him, "Would you go back?" Grayson smiled, only to bury it. They laughed. He didn't. Luna grew older beside him. They never called it love, not in the way humans named things, defined them, caged them. What they shared was quieter, deeper, like roots that didn't need sunlight to grow. When she died, peacefully, beneath the heart, he didn't weep. He sat with her hand in his, and whispered all the words he never needed to say. The forest buried her with song, and the heart grew a new branch the color of her eyes. One day, a ship came. Not from Earth. Not from any place Grayson knew. It hovered on the edge of the upper stratosphere, scanning, cautious, slow, not hostile. He felt it through the heart before the scouts even saw it, and for the first time in many years, he put on his armor. Not to fight, to stand. He met the envoy alone, at the same clearing where Luna had once spoken to Earth's diplomat. The being who stepped from the ship was not human. Tall, cloaked, face hidden by iridescent glass. Its voice came through a translator, soft and genderless. "We come in curiosity, no violence. We heard of a world that breathes." Grayson nodded. "It does." "Are you its leader?" "No," he said. "Just a man it let stay." The envoy studied him. "We seek permission to learn." He hesitated. Then, "Only if you're willing to be changed by what you find." The envoy nodded. "Change is why we travel." And for the first time, Grayson smiled without pain behind it. "Then welcome to Kavala." The forest bloomed again that year. The heart pulsed brighter. Children carved new stories into the bark, legends of beasts, of fire, of peace carved from ashes. Grayson didn't expect statues, didn't need songs. He had silence, he had purpose, and when he finally lay beneath the heart, old, worn, quiet, the forest didn't mourn. It remembered. And with every root, every leaf, every new voice born beneath its canopy, it told the stars, "Once we helped a man, and he brought us war, but in return, he gave us a future."